guys, I sound enthusiastic. I'm enthusiastic by one part of the news that we're going to talk about today, but less enthusiastic about another. We are here to talk tonight. Before we go live on SmackDown in a couple of hours, myself and Sam, we've got Dan with us, who has been doing some fantastic work on the back end, just like he does some fantastic work on my back end. What was that? What was I going for? What was my point? I lost my train of thought. We've got Dan with us, very special guest, and we're going to talk about Money in the Bank, and we're going to talk about the return of one Vince McMahon right after this message from, let's go Darby Allin. He's a good week.
Yeah. God, I just listened to this whole podcast. It was terrible. I feel like my ears are going to bleed.
What'd you say? This is Darby Allin, and you're listening to Give Me a Oh Yeah podcast.
Yeah,
I never get tired of that one. Never get tired of that one.
That one and the Mick Foley one.
Yeah, the Mick Foley one as well. It is great. So, guys, I guess we'll kick off with. Well, actually, no, I won't be rude. I will ask you both how you're doing. Sam, I've had enough of you already, and I've got you later on tonight on SmackDown. I'm joking. I love you, mate. I'll start with you, Sam, since we are going to be together all night tonight. So, how are you getting on?
I'm all right. Looking forward to. My God, have we got a lot to talk about and unpack? Because we had that. It's like that meme of the guy going, "Yeah," with the news yesterday and then the news today. It's been a bit like, you know what I mean? I feel like we've had a massive high and a massive low, and I feel so disrespectful saying that. But I'm sure we'll get into it. But yeah, I'm all right. What about you two?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, mate. There's some exciting stuff coming up. A really busy day. Dan, you are our special guest for the evening. You are not supposed to be here. You've done your shift for the week on Monday Night Raw. You've also been doing some. I jest in the introduction, but you've done some fantastic work on the back end with the visuals. These nice backgrounds that you've done for us. How are you feeling, mate? How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Started today a very long stint at work of 6 days in a row. That's including a Monday Night Raw on Monday. So it's going to be a long few days, but I'm excited. I've still got a few things that I'm playing with, which, I mean...
Like me?
Yeah.
You're going to play with me? You're going to play with me, Dan?
Oh, my Lord.
Maybe.
It's been 5 minutes and it's got weird.
That's a record. That's a record for Dom.
Yeah, I'm usually quicker, you know.
That's what Emma says.
Yeah, that is what Emma says. I know.
But yeah, I'm doing good.
You're okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, it's a pleasure to have you guys here. I thought it was. We don't normally do, sort of that many news things on here, but I think this is important. There's two reasons this is important. Obviously, WWE announced Money in the Bank in London at the O2 later on this year. Money in the Bank is being positioned, as far as I'm aware, as one of the big four. Or top certainly 4 or 5 pay-per-views that WWE is doing, and they're putting it in London. You remarked on our group text, Dan, that this certainly doesn't feel like a glorified house show. So let's start with you, Dan. Let's go around and we'll go around and get opinions and thoughts, and then we'll round up and we'll go to the comments as well. Dan, your thoughts on Money in the Bank being announced for London, for the UK, a massive pay-per-view and a massive get for our country.
100%. I mean, we had Clash at the Castle in September last year, which was the first stadium show the UK held for 30 years, since SummerSlam 92. So for another big pay-per-view premium live event, whichever you want to call it, the next year, instead of waiting another 20 years, 30 years, it's absolutely massive for us. And it shows how big and how successful Clash at the Castle was, that they're willing to throw something as big as Money in the Bank to the UK and not a B-level pay-per-view like a TLC pay-per-view or something like that, giving us a one that, I mean, a lot of people do class it as the Big Five now.
Yeah.
Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, Money in the Bank, the most recent addition to that list, because of how successful it has been. And being able to get it this early after holding, like I said, another premium live event last year, with that one, you are going to get some big storylines going forward with title holders. So it's not going to be a very glorified house show. It's going to have a big impact for the rest of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be amazing. And obviously, it is a way I've noticed as well for them to interject perhaps one Tyson Fury into proceedings, as he is now currently having visa issues related to some of his relationships, associations over in the US. But we'll talk about cameos we could see in a minute. It's equally as important to get Sam's viewpoint. Sam, as a wrestling fan and as a journalist and someone that does love wrestling and also write about it, because you can do both. What do you think about this? This pay-per-view, this major pay-per-view taking place in the UK.
I agree with every word Dan just said. Words right out of my mouth. It's like we were all at Clash. We loved every second of it. It felt like a little mini Mania. But when I watched it back, it felt a lot more like one of the Saudi Arabia shows, like a big glorified stadium house show.
Yeah.
Where, don't get me wrong, we had some cool stories. A couple of storyline things happened, but it was mostly just fun matches on a fun night, and it wasn't too much. But it's just like you said, Dan. Like Money in the Bank is becoming the fifth big pay-per-view, and in many ways, it's more relevant than things like Survivor Series. Something they haven't really known what to do with for a long time. And it's the faith they've got in the UK audience, because I think they always knew it was going to be successful in Cardiff at Clash at the Castle. I think they always knew it was going to be good, but I think they were overwhelmed by how much of a big deal it actually was, and our appetite as
Definitely.
Brits, for that. And the next logical place to do a pay-per-view like that is the capital. It is London. Don't get me wrong, I prefer it to be closer or in the north where we are. But if I have to hop on a train for a few hours to do this, I'm willing to do it. I'm excited.
Maybe that's next. Maybe that's next. Maybe a northern pay-per-view would be.
Yeah.
Maybe they're going to go Manchester next. Who knows?
Oh, I hope so. There's one more wrinkle though. One more thing that interests me about this. I also think it might possibly, but it was always coming. We always knew they were coming back in 2023 with something. But isn't it interesting that it might be around the same time, or maybe a month or so after, AEW come over for the first time? So are they counter promoting somewhat? But as far as I'm concerned, we're getting more shows, more for us to go to, more for us to enjoy, more for us to cover. It's just
100%.
awesome.
Yeah,
so happy.
I think it's going to be very exciting. And Anthony has come in. Thank you, Anthony, with your wonderful YouTube name. I always enjoy seeing that pop in when I'm doing a stream. Most would argue that Money in the Bank is more important than Survivor Series. Now, I'm not sure about that statement, but certainly, like Sam said, the faith that people put in the UK fans and the British audience, so WWE and the US have put in the UK audience. I don't think it's as big as Survivor Series, but it's up there. You got Mania, you've got Survivor Series, you've got the Rumble. What else is SummerSlam? And then this is number 5 with a bullet.
Yeah.
It's a toss up, isn't it? It's either number 4 and Survivor Series goes 5, or Survivor Series goes 4 and Money in the Bank goes 5. I mean, that's an interesting poll that I might put up while you guys are debating this next question. I might see what you guys think. Do you think that Money in the Bank is more important than Survivor Series? My question, guys, is obviously Clash of the Castle got a lot of it was a wonderful experience. Wonderful, for all of us, from media, from a fan perspective. But obviously, it was looked at as a bit of a B-level pay-per-view. We've all made comments about that. So, what can the WWE do? And this is we'll start with Sam this time, and then move down to Dan while I do a little poll. What can WWE do to make Money in the Bank, really stand out as not only one of the biggest pay-per-views in the calendar, but also, one of the better shows of the year in London in the O2?
Yeah, first of all, just to address what Normore said, UK crowds, but with the UK, we have a bit of a reputation of being the Downton Abbey of the world, and as soon as you come over here and you see our sports fans, you realise that is not the case. We are loud, we are rowdy, we swear a lot, we do all sorts of stuff. And look at that WrestleSpheres here. Who did that, I wonder, because it's either you or me. And I didn't do it.
It wouldn't be me.
Yeah, well, that's the UK crowds are rowdy. We are like Chicago and New York together sometimes. And did you hear Clash? Like, my God, we didn't stop. So you're absolutely right, Norma. And I tell you what, I don't know if you've ever been to London, mate. They're even worse. This is going to be a loud ass pay-per-view, and I think, to answer your question, Dom, because I've tangentialized, but yeah, I think what it might need is the one thing Clash didn't have, and that's some title changes, like a big title change. Like, could you imagine if McIntyre had won the big one at Clash? The roof would have come off that Principality Stadium. It would have come off, and it nearly came off when he didn't, because we were all so furious. That's why we needed Tyson Fury to come and calm us down by singing American Pie. But that's what it needs. It doesn't have to be the big one. We don't need to see Roman, or saying that Roman might have already lost it by then, but we don't need to see the big one change hands or anything like that. But we do need to see something historic happen. Maybe a UK star like McIntyre winning the IC title or something like that. The history books need to be altered in some way for it to matter, I think, and some good storytelling and some good matches.
Yeah, interesting point. Dan, your thoughts? What fantasy book me the best case scenario? I mean, is it Drew winning, the IC title, or someone like Pete Dunne winning the Money in the Bank, or Butch winning Money in the Bank, or something? I think it'll be a UK talent winning the Money in the Bank. That's what I think. Dan, your thoughts though?
I was thinking exactly the same line. So while I was listening to Sam, I actually brought up the roster. And in my mind, I would probably be looking at someone like Tegan Knox from the UK, who they want to build as a star, winning the Women's Money in the Bank and at least holding it for a little while. Because if I remember rightly, there has only been Carmella that has held the title for held the briefcase for more than a week. Everyone else has actually cashed it in that same night or the next night on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah,
Carmella was the only one that's actually kept the briefcase, kept it moving forward as a storyline trigger. And I'd love to see him do something similar with Tegan Knox. Keep building her up, and then making her into that legitimate threat that could take on someone like Charlotte Flair. Because we know from the UK, we've seen her perform. We know she can be that level star if given the right opportunities. Pete Dunne winning, or Butch, if he's still going by that name back then, because I still want him to go back to Pete Dunne, as I think pretty much most people do. That could be the other person from the UK. The other person that you could also look at, we haven't seen her for a little while, is Doudrop, going back to Piper Niven, maybe.
Oh, yes, yeah, finally.
Absolutely.
Get rid of that goddamn name.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, that's just briefcase sort of points that I'm thinking of. But again, you've got people like Pete Dunne could possibly win the IC title or the US title. That would be a big pop. If Cody is holding titles, which in my mind he should be by that point, having him lose it to someone like Drew would be a little bit of compensation from Clash at the Castle.
Yeah.
But with stuff like that, I think with the storyline, with the storyline that they've been, it's all right. With the storyline they've been doing with Clash at the Castle, I agree with them not taking him off Roman, because I think that at that point they were still in talks with maybe The Rock appearing.
Yeah.
So he was going to be the big name for WrestleMania next year. But if Cody is coming back at Royal Rumble, which I think we do expect, especially with the teasers on Monday Night Raw that we've been getting.
And the poster that just released today with him on
Exactly.
it.
Yeah. It makes sense for him to turn up at the Rumble, maybe win at Mania, and then he can have a 3-month reign, April, May, June, July. Yeah, about a 3-month reign, put over a couple of people maybe, and then maybe drop the titles to Drew, but then recover them later on in the year.
That's
Or
interesting.
you could do that to give the UK crowd a British champion again, very reminiscent of 1992, with British Bulldog going over against the babyface at the time, Bret Hart. But obviously at the time, Bret was the heel because it was a UK-based show.
That is interesting, yeah. So you're giving the belts to Drew in the middle of these mega feuds. You know, Cody, Roman. You're going to give the belt to Drew.
Who's to say he won't be a heel by then?
Yeah. I think Cody will de facto come back as a face because he's going to be that big of a pop.
Yeah.
So the face beating the heel Roman Reigns at WrestleMania for at least one title. If you want to do it for one title, split the titles up. You've got the 2 titles there. And then further down the line, you could either have Cody go up against a heel Drew or going up against a face Roman Reigns. As a face.
Interesting point. Yeah, interesting point. I mean, I'm not so sure about hot shots in the titles, but I guess in the context, it's a good it's a good bit of good business.
Yeah.
I mean, with that, you don't even have to hot shot them. You could take one title off at WrestleMania, give that one to Cody for Monday Night Raw, keep one of the titles on Roman, and then Drew McIntyre as the face in the UK takes the second title off of Roman.
Okay, yeah.
So you have one on Cody, one on Roman, and then one on Cody, one on McIntyre.
Who's to say at Mania, like Roman at Mania, could have a match for one of them one night and one of them the next night as well, or something like that.
Yeah.
So because they haven't, I know they've said this is unified, but they've kept both belts, and as far as the rankings are concerned, they're still separate. So it's not unified at all, and we know they're not going to fully unify them because I know the brand split is largely dead in many ways. It's just kind of a way of just splitting them slightly because we see people cross over all the time now. But yeah, I don't think they're going to get rid of that Universal title. Vince put everything into that. You know, he made that bigger than the WWE title for a few years. He just did. So I'm thinking they could do that at Mania, split the titles, then they could tell that story. They could maybe have somebody win that, like The Rock win that, then The Rock could, you know, perhaps relinquish it and say, right, opportunity, I've got it off Roman, that's all I wanted to do, guys, fight over it. And we could, you know, they could have the story go in that way, and then someone like McIntyre could win that, and because he's owed it, because he had the COVID era with the empty arenas, he was the champ there, still needs his coronation, and I think that'd be a nice way to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's a beautiful moment. Drew front and center. And again, you know, for me, giving the title to someone like giving the Money in the Bank to someone like Pete Dunne as well is another way they could go and still get that major pop without, you know, taking the title off Roman if they were going to go down that route. But I really do like your booking, Dan. So does Anthony there. I want to say thank you to Tom Talks Rubbish for his donation. Super chat. Thank you very much. What is up, party people? He says, wait, mate, I'm super tired. But seeing you pop in always brings a smile to my face. So thank you very much. Welcome to Griff Dog Johnson. Norma makes a point here. Thing about Money in the Bank, whoever wins the case with the contract in it is totally relevant as long as they hold it. Every time he or she shows up during a show, they're in the spotlight. Interesting. So who can handle that? We've talked about Tegan Knox. We've talked about Doudrop. We've talked about Drew McIntyre. We've talked about Pete Dunne. These people that you could see running having a Money in the Bank program. I could see all of those people having a Money in the Bank program, and that makes the British talent, the UK talent, relevant beyond this pay-per-view as well, beyond Money in the Bank.
Yeah, and let's be honest, there's so many UK stars that they've got in the company at the moment who are doing really, really well. I know McIntyre's the big one. I want to say because people mentioned Sheamus, and I think I might have mentioned Finn Balor earlier. Like, let's not forget they're technically Irish, so they're not from the UK. Only Northern Ireland is part of the UK for our American fans and elsewhere. But I know what you mean. It's still part of the Anglosphere, isn't it, in many ways? So I think it still kind of counts in that regard. But wow, I think in a way, yes, we can fantasy book, but I think it might be too early to book in some senses, because they are going to do a few swerves, a few things are going to happen between now and then that we aren't going to be able to foresee. I'm just excited it's happening, and let's get on those press passes, shall we, Dom?
Yeah, working on it, man. Working on it. There's a couple of other things I want to do this year, so but we'll definitely get going on that for sure. That sounds good. I want to try and split this half an hour on this subject and half an hour on the other subject. It would have been an amazing segue as ZJR says Vince is back, but I do want to, and we are going to talk about that, ZJ. We'll be talking about that in about 10 minutes time. I could see Wade Barrett coming out of retirement and winning Money in the Bank. I believe does he have an injury, a long-term injury?
Yeah.
Okay. See,
so it could be some bad news.
Yeah, people have been fantasy booking a Wade Barrett ring return. I think he's talked about maybe one more match. So I wouldn't be against that, but obviously it depends on his health. There's a wider conversation here, guys, about why they made the choice to do this. Why do you think? Obviously, we're not behind the scenes. We don't know, but why have they done this? Why have they given the UK Money in the Bank? Is it as a direct response to the popularity of something like Clash, or do you think there's something else in it, a snappier business decision, perhaps? Let's answer this, like I say, going round. So maybe Dan on this one. Once again, do you think that there's more to this decision than simply, oh well, Clash went well, let's put Money in the Bank here?
I think there probably will be down the line. Like we've been talking about, it could be to try and build a couple of more sort of UK-based stars, Pete Dunne, Doudrop, Tegan Knox, that sort of thing. But I do think that Clash at the Castle was a hell of a lot more of a success than they ever thought it would be. I mean, the merch sales was supposedly through the roof. I know we both went to the shop. I don't know if Samuel got to the pop-up shop they did in the shopping centre.
Sure did.
We got there, and there was barely anything left on any of the shelves. There was barely any T-shirts left. So with that, I don't think they expected as much of it to sell out as possible. The stadium itself, I don't think was an official sellout, but I do think that with that, there was so much more money in it that they didn't realise if they did it once a year or maybe once every 5 years. But I think with Triple H, he's obviously had NXT UK that he's built up, that's obviously closed down for the time being until the rebranding.
NXT
but I do
Europe,
think,
the return of the European Championship.
That's one thing that I'm thinking. Yeah,
and the inevitable re-signing of D'Lo Brown.
But yeah, I mean, with that, I think that Triple H is looking at plugging the UK market with more things in the future because he knows of how much interest there is here. I think in terms of global watching along live, it is the second biggest market besides the US audience. So with that, they are targeting the two places that is making them the most revenue. And I think that's the same reason why AEW are doing a show after only being around for 3 years.
Yeah. And where they're plucking a lot of their stars from, let's not forget, as well. An increasing amount of not just European stars. And I think, unlike Clash, I think the Money in the Bank show will involve NXT a little bit more. I know Vince is back, but Triple H has got his feet much more under the table and has got a much more of a stranglehold over the company now. And so does his wife, thank God, as well. So I'm really hoping we do see him, and it's NXT's his baby, so it does make sense for him to do that as well. Normar says something cool. Michael agrees about Wade Barrett winning the briefcase. Now, the only issue with that I have, from a booking point of view, is it'd be better to build a new star, build a new British star, and maybe have. I'd bring Wade Barrett back as a babyface and have him help put over another star. Maybe a tag team match where the old and the new team up against two heels, and then he has like his last hurrah, or he goes out on his back to somebody. But it's I don't know. I think you could send the crowd home happy if he's a babyface with another babyface killing two nasty heels.
Yeah,
that's just my view.
I think if they were going to bring him back, it would be a better decision again for him to put over. Anyone. I believe Noam Dar is still signed to the company.
Yes, he is.
Let's have Noam Dar. Go over. And then Wade Barrett mentor Noam Dar or something. I don't know. I mean, Noam Dar's been going for years, but still a new star. It would be an emerging star to the WWE audience who only know him as the boyfriend of Alicia Fox. Anybody remember that? Because that just fell on deaf ears. I was expecting thunderous laughter.
It's just been a while. It's been a while.
You guys left me hanging. What was that? Right.
That's when 205 was featured on Raw. I flipping heck. I think I was in short trousers. But anyway, I don't know.
That won the whole thing with that. Vince McMahon just liked hearing Noam Dar say Fox because it sounded like
Fox.
Oh, Alicia Fox. Anyway, tangent. I am going to ask this slightly off-kilter question because I brought up D'Lo Brown because I always think he's associated with the European Championship. So, bonus question for you guys quickly, but we're going to put a poll up. So, who do you guys think of when you think of the legendary, the iconic WWF/WWE European Championship?
Go for it, Sam.
Precious on.
I don't know. Do you know what? It's almost like I don't remember half of those runs or never cared for them. I probably would nowadays, but I can't even.
You're a fair weather fan. I don't want to work with you anymore. You're not cool enough to be on this podcast.
I don't know if that is when I took my hiatus from wrestling. I'd probably D'Lo, much as I hate to admit it. Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah, I thought D'Lo Brown, right? I thought Dan.
For me, D'Lo Brown was the first name that always comes to mind, but the other one that usually sticks for me, just because of I think of what could have been, is Owen Hart.
Oh
Yeah.
I remember sort of seeing him with the championship quite a lot, maybe because I only watched very small segments when I was younger. But I always seem to remember him holding the European Championship besides D'Lo Brown. But you just think what could have happened if the tragedy didn't occur, and how many times he probably would have been a world champion.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Very interesting. Would Owen Hart have been a world champion? I think a lot of people would say yes. I think that. Sorry, Anthony has brought up an interesting point. We'll do a couple of comments related to this section before we move on to our other topic of discussion. I think Anthony says, I think they have seen that Clash was an economic success and realized that they still had the American audience watching. So I have confidence it will work. Yeah, I think that's, I have nothing else to add to that, guys. Thoughts on that?
I think he's right. Yeah, it's.
Don't tell him that. He'll have a big.
Anthony, you're often right, mate. You're often right, mate. I know we give you some stick when you're not here to defend yourself, but you are often right. Look at Dom's face. He's like, "No, you've created a monster."
You don't understand what the. If he was here, he'd make me do this.
Your two-time Give Me a Hole champion, the humble, the natural, the greatest champion to ever have lived. It's a
quiet moment of tribute to Anthony, since you said he was always or often right.
Well, he's often wrong as well. I'm not being funny, Anthony. The fact that you didn't have Roman Reigns in your top 10 list is absolutely laughable. But I like everything else you say. I'm sorry, mate. But yeah, I love this. Like, Ant also makes another good point here about I'm surprised they went with Money in the Bank to the King of the Ring. Now, because WWE is often absolutely culturally tone deaf.
Yes.
And that would have been. the sort of thing Vince would have done in a heartbeat. But I think Triple H and Steph have got a little bit more marketing nous, and they realise that doing King of the Ring in the UK after the Queen has died, when there's a new king, I know half of us don't care. Trust me, most people in the UK aren't that bothered about all this sort of stuff. We're just not. But it might have been a bit awkward because, there's a little bit of PR dodginess around that. I would have been game. I would have been fine with it. But I'm happy. I'm happy for it to be Money in the Bank. Mainly because Money in the Bank is, as we've said, it's now one of the big five. And I think it means more than King of the Ring. Like King of the Ring, I know they brought it back in recent years and it's been fun to watch, but I don't feel like they've done much with it. We've had Baron Corbin walking around cosplaying Game of Thrones. Then we had flipping Xavier Woods, who just forgot about it. So I love King of the Ring. I'd love a King of the Ring pay-per-view again. I love tournaments. I love tournament pay-per-views. But let's save that for a fun, a fun couple of SmackDowns and Raws. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah. I imagine. I always like a good King of the Ring.
Me too.
Tournament on television, But then I am nostalgic for the classic pay-per-view as well.
Yeah,
so I wouldn't be averse to them bringing it back. But you're right. It would be incredibly tone deaf, even for WWE, if they brought back King of the Ring as a pay-per-view right now, especially in the UK. There you go. So I agree completely, Sam. I think they would have had King of the Ring if it wasn't for the old lady passing.
Maybe. I'm not so sure. I think I feel like Ant's putting me over a lot tonight, but I feel like they're putting the UK over a lot with the with giving us one of the big five. That's a massive show of faith, and it's almost it's a reward for our loyalty, our fandom, our appetite for wrestling in general. I'm really happy that they've done that, because I've suspected for years like they'd give us a TLC or one of these pay-per-views that in the PG era just doesn't have any relevance anymore, like Extreme Rules and stuff like that. Because we've got all these Extreme Rules pay-per-views like TLC, Extreme Rules, things like that. And Money in the Bank is the best of them. It's the only one I actually look forward to. All the others I'm just at these days. Just get rid of them. And let's bring back Night of Champions, where every champion has to defend. And I'd rather see stuff like that. Just to respond. Sorry, Dan. Just to respond to Normar with Fit Finley. Did you know we called our dog Finley Normar? Now my wife wanted it after Finn Balor, but when I pick him up and he's wrestling me, I go, "My name's Finley, and I love to fight." So to me, it's more after Fit Finley.
Amazing. I bet your wife is like, "What are you doing?"
Oh, she knows. She knows who Fit Finley is. She knows what I'm doing. She's lived with me for a long time.
Yeah, I don't really know where to go from that. I was just trying to think. I was waiting for Dan to add something about about him calling his bits Fit Finley or something. I don't know, but you got nothing. You had nothing for me, Dan. You had nothing for me. Thanks. Thanks.
I name my cars after wrestlers at the time. So every car I own, I name it after a professional wrestler.
Car who are you? Vince McMahon? Segway! Sorry, go on. So you name you name your
I've had 3 cars. And I've had 3 different names for them, all with sort of different stars at the time. My first car was completely black, so it was called Paige because it was when not sort of long after Paige debuted. So the sort of black car, black hair, gothic sort of thing. As you know, I'm sort of the gothic style. And then my next car was metallic red.
So you got the gothic style, mate. I love it. I do. I'm sorry. Carry on. I interrupted you. Come
on. My second car was metallic red, and it was just when Ember Moon had debuted, so I called it Ember. And then my new one is sort of like a dark blue, and this was when Sasha Banks returned, obviously before all the kerfuffle with what's happened. And so my new one's called Sasha.
You should have called it Money.
Yeah.
Just to reply to Ant's comment, it's Great Khali.
The Great Khali.
Yeah. Covered by me. The Great Khali covered by me and my face.
Coming into my Punjabi prison. Anyway.
Yeah. Have you got them boxes handy, or are you still wearing
them? I could probably go find them.
I mean, no, we'll wait till another stream. Next time we're on stream together, have them ready. Have them washed and have them ready, you know?
I'm having them on.
I mean, you can, if you fancy getting them out on camera, that's great. You know, it's all good.
Won't be the first time.
Indeed.
Yes, it would.
No. I don't mean for you, mate. I don't mean for you.
Yes, well, we're going to get to that now. But I have got one more Money in the Bank related question because I wanted to come back to Michael's comment. He picks LA Knight, to win Money in the Bank. Guys, quick fire question. No arsing around. Who are you picking for Money in the Bank? Go. Straight off. Let's go.
Butch.
10 seconds. You're off smack.
Butch and Tegan Knox.
Right, Butch, Tino. I'm picking Butch. You're picking McIntyre.
McIntyre and Tegan Knox.
Okay, cool. Right. Okay. Well, the Ultimate Nightmare has gifted us our little segue. Vince McMahon is back in WWE. I did get photos of.
That's an Ultimate Nightmare.
Yeah. Look. Yeah. Look, I had all this stuff. I had all this nice stuff prepared, and I didn't use it. There you go. Money in the Bank. Saturday, July 1st, London at the O2. Go and get your. Your tickets. Wait, Dan, you didn't even see that. Couldn't even see that because I had the thing up. What was that? And then the boxes. It's my face. That's my face on Dan's balls.
On the Great Khali.
On the Great Khali.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Are they
about the right. Oh, very. And they're about the right size difference as well for you and the Great Khali.
There you go. I love it. Absolutely. Michael agrees with. Michael says Tegan Knox and LA Knight. Interesting.
Good calls.
Anthony says Bray Wyatt to win Money in the Bank.
Nope. No chance.
And Alexa Bliss to win Money in the Bank.
It doesn't suit Bray Wyatt. He doesn't need that. He doesn't need those gimmicks. Because he's a gimmick himself in a kind. I mean that in a good way. He doesn't need I'm not even sure he needs a title for a hell of a long time. Just give him a good story. That's all I want to say. It's a good matches. That's all I want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that, I'm cuddling Hornswoggle. Mine's Hornswoggle if yours is the Great Khali.
I'm trying to think what mine is.
Mine's
mine's William Regal. You know, I'm
William Regal.
the real man's man. Yeah. And,
good morning, your lordship.
And you're
Finley with the shillelagh.
Yeah, Finley with the shillelagh. You're my bit of crumpet, Sam. You're my what Excalibur is to William Regal. You're my bit of crumpet.
I have to admit, I'm gonna miss Regal's introductions on Dynamite and stuff. When he goes, "Hello, man in the mask. I'd like to cover you in custard and lick it off." I'm gonna miss all that. So.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. Look, man. This isn't the right forum. We've got another discussion to have. You can come and join. You know, on the podcast that you also co-host. Me and Sam are getting together with Metro journalist Alistair McGeorge next week to talk about whether Bray Wyatt's gimmick is working or not. So if you guys are interested in Bray Wyatt and what he's doing in WWE right now, come and join us for that next week. This is not the forum to do it. We are here to talk about Vince McMahon, but we will. There's nothing wrong with James Ellsworth. Every man or testicle or pair of testicles, you know, every shaft with two balls.
We're going to get told off by YouTube again at this
has
point.
A fighting chance. Every man with two hands has a fighting chance. Every shaft with two balls has a fighting chance. There's nothing wrong with.
I don't think that's what he said. But anyway.
Every man with two hands.
Two hands, not two balls.
Well, I'm saying two balls. Right, okay. I think Bray's first match being at the Royal Rumble is dope. Yeah, against LA Knight. You wouldn't dare have me on that. No, you're probably right.
On my Great Khali?
I think he's well. No, I know what he does. Anthony's told me in depth what he gets up to in the bedroom. You wouldn't want him on your Great Khali.
No, I know I wouldn't.
He doesn't want to come on the chat with Alistair. I could see Carmelo Hayes winning Money in the Bank. What a pitch! Yeah, what a pitch, Michael. Nice. Right, okay. Let's go back up to the Ultimate Nightmare. Segueing into our next discussion. Vince McMahon returning to WWE. Right. So where do we start with this? Now, obviously, we could have prepared and been professional and got all the documents up, but I think we know the general gist. Vince McMahon is coming back to to sell the company, basically, to put himself in a position where he could sell the company, and he's in power. He has reinstated former board members that he had when he was there as well. He's basically making a power play, talking about giant testicles. He is making a power play where he can come back to the company, get it in a position to sell it, and then take a big fat wad of money with him. Now, most people are worried that this is going to impact the creative process. Now, I guess that's an interesting way to start, unless Sam or Dan, you could tell me, am I wrong? Is that why he's back? Is he back to sell the company and purely sell the company, get it in a position where he could sell the company, maybe release a few more stars, unfortunately, to make the company profitable upon selling? Is that why Vince is back? Is that the only reason why Vince is back? Let's start with Sam on that one and then go to Dan.
Right. So selling the company has been on the cards for a long time, with NBC and Disney being the two big ones, because they're the two companies who host them on Monday and Friday nights, with SmackDown and Raw, with Fox now being owned by Disney. So, and that is largely why they were making all the chops at the time. They were trying, like Nick Khan. I believe Nick Khan was brought in to get the company ready for sale. That was his job, and I think the reason he's still there post Vince McMahon is because that is still the ultimate plan. Now, Vince is the majority shareholder. He realizes he's sitting on what might be $1 billion. So, and he does have interested parties. People have approached him in the past. So here's the thing. It's inevitable them selling the company, and Vince wants to be part of that because he is still the majority shareholder. So he has said he's only back to do that. And if that is the case, as a fan, I don't mind, as long as he sticks at it, that is what he sticks to. Him and Nick Khan, if they go off and do that, let Steph and Trips run the daily stuff. If he starts chopping people left, right, and center again, as a fan, I'm not going to be happy. But and here's the thing: I don't know how much I trust of what he's saying. But if what he's saying is true, it's just here for the sale, then that's okay. Because let's imagine Disney or NBC, more likely going to be NBC at this point because of the whole Peacock deal. If NBC were to purchase the company, I think they're smart enough to know. They've hosted Raw for long enough on the USA Network. They're smart enough to know to keep Steph and Trips where they are, should those two people agree to stay post-sale. So it might be a storm in a teacup. There might not be anything to worry about. But as soon as they start releasing people, that's when we start needing to be worried again, or if he starts interfering with creative. But from what we hear, there doesn't sound to be, so I'm going to turn off my fan head and put on my journalist head. From what we hear, there seems to be a lot of resistance to him backstage, in the office and in the locker room. So, and let's not forget the allegations that are still hanging over his head, which are still there. They've not gone away, and they could bring him down again. I also suspect every time he raises his head above the parapet, somebody is leaking stuff to the press, somebody within the company. I can't prove that. I have no sources. I have nothing to back that up. It seems very coincidental. So, yeah, final thoughts before I let Dan get a word in. I think it might not be anything to worry about until they start releasing people. Let's see.
Okay. That is my worry, and Anthony makes an interesting point. He will be chopping people. That was all for part of the sale. Dan, your thoughts on what Vince McMahon is doing? Will he impact creative? Will he start releasing people? Is this simply I'm selling the company, I want to make some money, or is this much deeper than that? Dan, your thoughts, please.
I think it's a very, very interesting position that the company is in at the minute. They've had such a good experience since Triple H took over. The share prices have been slowly going up and up and up. And I've been looking at a few different sort of aspects of it over the sort of past 24 hours since the announcement. Mainly because with Triple H coming back, he's brought back two of his people that resigned with him. And 3 board members have been basically let go. But with Vince coming back, another 2 board members have actually resigned.
Can I just interject, Dan? I'm really sorry to interrupt you, mate. I'm really sorry.
Go for it. No, it's fine.
The two people he's brought in are actually two people he fired for disagreeing with him over the whole Peacock thing. So they went a lot earlier than he did. So it's really weird that he's all of a sudden in bed with them again, figuratively, and that they're all of a sudden allies again. Sorry, as you were. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I was actually going to get around to that bit because.
Oh, sorry, mate. Sorry.
No, it's okay. From what I've been reading, they are two of the other biggest shareholders in the company behind Vince. So they stepped down from the board, but still kept their shares. Exactly the same as what Vince McMahon did. Stepped back down, but kept the shares. And because he had the shares, he still had the majority. I think it's an 80% voting capacity on what he does, which is absolutely massive. So with that, I was looking at the share prices of how many shares he owns and how much it would be looking at. And to basically get a full buyout, this is literally just me looking at numbers and putting something together. You're looking at around the 6 to 7 billion to buy WWE as a company. Based on sort of, like I said, with what I know with the numbers, with what I know on the share prices, which I was researching earlier on today. And if that is the case, there's not many places, not many companies that can afford that sort of money without seeing a very quick and sort of return on that money. So I do think that if they are able to clean up a few of the bigger wage bills like they did with Bray Wyatt last year, and people like Braun Strowman, who was on the higher end contracts, being able to clear them off is going to make the profit of the business look a lot more appealing to an investor from an external source.
I think they were saying on the Observer, sorry, I don't mean to contradict, they were saying on the Observer, but this was about a year ago, so on a few of the podcasts, that Vince, they were struggling to get it to $1 billion. Vince wanted to sell it for $1 billion. So flipping heck, if it's gone from 1 to 7, then I can understand why he's,
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing there, Dan, is that you're saying that Vince is going to start releasing people, like your Bray Wyatt's, your Braun Strowman's.
I don't know if he comes back. I don't think that he's got the power to do that. I mean, he may have if he's basically saying to Nick Khan, "This is what I want to happen," saying the same to Stephanie, saying the same to Triple H. But I do think that if he wants to maximize his own potential returns on what he sells the company for, you'll leave creative alone. You don't touch it because it's going through a resurgence of enjoyment for the fans' perspective. And they are the ones that are going to continue pumping money into the company in the future. If you start releasing people, like what happened last year and the year before, viewership slowly takes a big decline because some of their favourites, I mean, yourself, Dom included, when Bray Wyatt got released, you lost interest in WWE altogether for a short period, and that is going to impact the share price. If he comes in, releases someone, share price takes a dive, the company's not worth as much. So I don't think that he would come in and start releasing people.
Ant makes a point about he has the power to do that. Now, he does in theory, but there are checks and balances on what even a majority shareholder could do, because a majority shareholder is a shareholder. They can interject what they think at the board, but that doesn't necessarily mean they have room in the office. The office can, because you've got it's the president, it's the CEO, it's people like that who make the office decisions. So he can try and influence those decisions from the boardroom, but they don't necessarily have to say yes or no. Because, like, yes, he again 80%. He can start throwing his weight around, but they can fight him. He can't just say do it. And there's the personal aspect as well. And he can't argue. He cannot deny that it's doing better without him. That's a fact. Again, thanks for the memories, Vince. But please, for the love of God, stay away. I say as a fan, and lots of other people do too. So he can't just come in and start swinging his great Carly around. He's got to he's got quite a fight from some of the other guys. Sorry, Dom, you were going to say something.
No, it's interesting getting your thoughts on this, because again, that is one of the misconceptions I think people have. Obviously, Vince is all powerful, but actually, what I've heard tonight, and obviously from what I understand, as Anthony puts a big point in there, which we'll get to, is that actually Vince, while Vince has a lot of power, they can fight him if he wants to start releasing people, if he wants to start, affecting that share price, which will take a massive dive if some of the bigger stars on the bigger contracts were to go.
Yeah, they can also have him. There are things they can do to lock him out as well. There's lots of things, and if the TV companies let's say Triple H and Stephanie got on the phone, it depends also where Nick Khan lies. It depends if his loyalties have shifted to the power couple or if they remain with Vince. So because if the TV companies were to start threatening to pull out, let's imagine they wanted to buy it or they had interest at least buying it in the future, and they started making noise, then that could overnight kill an awful lot of the company. So look what happened with WCW back in the day. The minute they lost TV, they were dead. They were gone, and they were owned by the station. They were they could have kept them around. They didn't. Vince, if he wants that payday, he really needs to toe the line more than people think. And I was thinking, George, it's more like an episode of Succession, but I like it. I like Sopranos too.
There's a combative point here. Didn't take a massive dive in share price when they released talent before. Minimize costs, maximize profits. From a business standpoint, yes, I understand what you're saying. However, I've got to believe that WWE is, like Dan used the word, resurgence. I think, they've got to be thinking about. I believe they're thinking about the fans more than they ever have done. I mean, that's why Money in the Bank is in London. That's why they've bought back your Tegan Knoxes. That's why you bought back your Emmas. There are other talents that can workhorses, people that aren't necessarily the biggest draws, but workhorses, talented performers to coach and mentor others. I would find it difficult to believe that there would be no pushback. And as George says, the board have to vote. I would find it difficult to believe there would be no pushback if Vince was going to say, right, okay, who's on the bigger contracts? Bray Wyatt, Braun Strowman. Obviously, Roman Reigns is untouchable. Sami Zayn's got to be on a pretty high. I mean, I'm trying to think. You brought Braun Strowman, you Bray Wyatt. They've been the biggest re-signings. Yeah, I mean, let's just go with them. Let's ask that question then. I mean, we're all Bray fans here, but realistically, two of the bigger end of contracts will probably be Braun and Bray. Are they worrying now? Are they worrying about their job? Or are they,
Sorry, mate. Yeah. Sorry, I thought you were done. Word on the street is Braun isn't on anywhere near what he was when they first released him. I suspect, again, I can't prove it, but I suspect that they got rid of Braun because of that money and brought him back on something a little bit more modest, which to him, after maybe existing on the indies for a while and hanging out with EC3, it still made more sense to go back to WWE and get that, even though it was less than before, because of course it is. And when it comes to Bray Wyatt, I think if they got rid of Bray Wyatt again, there'd be an awful lot of look at the outpouring of love when Bray was released the first time, and look at me too, mate. I was on holiday. It ruined my day. It ruined my day and my holiday. And when they brought him back, look at how much of a big deal that was. They finally had their CM Punk in AEW moment, which was made even sweeter for them by Punk no longer being with AEW, at least in that way. So WWE, they got one over there on the competition with Bray. They're not going to give that up quickly. Triple H and Stephanie McMahon aren't going to give that up. They've got big plans for Bray Wyatt, lots of stuff in the works. I know we're going to debate late next week as to if it's working or not, but I think they'd be mad, and I think the fans would riot if they did that again. I don't think they're going anywhere.
Dan, obviously, you might have a different opinion. Do Braun and Bray have to worry? But basically, I can't think of another person with a massive who is going to be on a higher end of money that they would touch. So your Roman Reigns, your Kevin Owens, someone like that. I think they're safe. But Braun and Bray, who obviously weren't safe before, are they worrying about their jobs at the moment, Dan?
I would be because I mean Braun was very regularly featured on TV for quite a long time leading up to their actual release. And that's why there was such big shocks when they did get released. So if it can happen to someone like Bray Wyatt, who's in one of the biggest biggest creative stages of storytelling at the time, and immediately gets cut, it can happen to pretty much anyone. The only people that we don't see it happening to is someone like Roman Reigns, who is, I think, probably the closest to being untouchable as of right now.
I would say, yeah, almost academic. Same with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, who just re-signed. There's a couple of interesting comments here, which we'll get to, and thank you guys for those. Just to address Anthony's point. So I'll ask you both, outright. Do you think Bray and this is yes or no? Do you think Bray or Braun will be released? Yes or no? Go with Dan first.
No, I think they're too important.
Okay, Sam. Okay.
No, I agree, and I think the first time Bray got released, there was the whole Fiend thing had kind of collapsed a bit due to Vince's interference and that awful WrestleMania spot. And things happened there, and he had a little bit of beef with Vince because Bray has integrity and was like, "We're dragging this character down into the gutter. We're grinding him down." I don't think they're there at the moment. They're actually building to something with some subtlety and some balance. They're not hammering it like they did with the Fiend. So we're in a very different creative place backstage from a personal level with these guys as well, which I think should be taken into account when we're discussing if they were going to chop Bray or not. I actually think both dudes are safe, personally.
Okay. There's an interesting point which I want to bring back from Anthony. It's all about business. Creative has got better, but it all costs more. I'm not saying there won't be pushbacks, but Vince likes to let people know who's really in charge. I would agree with that to a point. However, this may have been before all the sexual harassment charges and whatever. I think he has maybe less momentum now if he's going to start throwing his weight around. I mean, I don't know. I know business is business. I understand the separation there. But your thoughts on that comment there? Is Vince, if Triple H and if Stephanie does push back, if he says, right, Braun Strowman, Bray Wyatt, we don't, they're on big money contracts. Either they come down in money or we get rid of them. And Triple H and Stephanie says, we've done all this work. The White Rabbit, we've put Braun Strowman in some red tights. We like his hands. He likes his hands. Everybody likes Braun Strowman's hands. But we put our work into this, and Vince McMahon still going to say then, business is business is business. We're getting rid of them, and it goes back to this point. Sorry, I am waffling. What I meant to ask is, can we address this comment? Do you think Vince has the weight to implement such a decision, even if there are pushbacks?
Who do you want to go first?
Sorry, I left that open, but let's go with Dan first on this one.
I know stuff like this is all about business. It's all about where the pennies are, where the pounds are, where the millions of pounds are, or dollars, obviously. But I do think that, Vince has got the power to be able to do pretty much what he wants. I do think that if he does come back and does start trying to interfere, I think Triple H has got the balls to be able to say to Vince, look at what we're doing, look at what we're creating. We're getting so much more engagement.
Yeah.
We are generating more business. We are generating more viewers than we had this time last year. And I think that if Vince is a true businessman, which he claims to be, he should listen to that, take it on board, and then think, if I start messing about with stuff, is that going to affect the business in a way? And I think that if he's a businessman who claims to be, he's very shrewd at marketing, he's very shrewd at stuff like that. So he should be shrewd at listening to the next generation of talent and basically taking that on board. That he didn't do it with Bray Wyatt, and that is why they fell out over the creative.
Yep.
Come back, Vince. Triple H brought Bray Wyatt back, and the character resurgence on Bray Wyatt, again, I use the same word, resurgence, has gone through the roof. I don't think they need to speed it up a bit, but that's a completely separate point.
Tune into SmackDown tonight to see what they do with that right here on the Gimme a Hull Yeah podcast with myself and Sam. Off topic to take a little sidestep. Will we see Cena Orton retirement match at Mania? I think that's good booking, Matthew. I think obviously Orton's injured right now. Obviously Cena's taking his sweet time. Obviously, as he's every right to do, as the global movie star he is. He may be at Mania, he may not be. I believe they're pitching a John Cena versus Logan Paul match as it stands. A Cena Orton retirement match would be good booking. Both these guys have obviously, I think equal title reigns or there and thereabouts. And obviously both sort of careers have matched each other in various ways. So interesting booking. Just a quick aside then, guys, to our topic, because there's plenty more comments to get to before we wind this up. Would you enjoy a Cena Orton match, retirement match at Mania? Loser leaves WWE, something of that nature?
As fun as it'd be, it's fun, and I've seen them wrestle before. I always like it. I like both guys, big fan. But if I see either of those two dudes retiring, and I think Orton's got a lot left in the tank, and I think obviously Cena's going to want to do it eventually. But if anyone who retires Cena, I want it to be a young upcoming talent. If you're the guy who retired Cena, flipping heck, talk rocket strap to your back. Let's see that. I want to see
Austin
Cena.
Theory.
Yeah, some a heel who savagely kicks Cena out on his shield.
Rod Breaker.
That's a good shout. Yeah.
If he was a heel, I like Theory. I like Theory being the sniveling little scumbag who puts Cena into retirement, and Bron Breakker be the hero who then goes after Theory for that. That's what I would do.
Yeah. Interesting. Thank you guys for that aside. Back on topic now. Anthony, great questions. Anthony, thank you for your engagement. Appreciate your time. Obviously, I know you're not feeling well. Feel better soon, mate. Well done on a cracking AEW Dynamite stream last night. Obviously, witnessed some awesome stuff. Darby winning the championship. Well done on those views, dude. Bray was one of the biggest merch sellers prior to being released. He was a financial asset, but Vince didn't see him as valuable to the company. I mean, this isn't, the Bray Wyatt stream we'll be doing next week, and some of these questions might be useful for them, Sam and Dan. But, are we in a different time now with Triple H and a creative? Are we in a different time? Does that very poignant statement stand up? Bray, being a financial asset but not valuable to the company in Vince's eyes. Goes back to our previous question. Is it beyond the realms of possibility that Bray might lose his job again?
I don't know if I agree. I'm not so sure it had anything to do with value. I think the reason Vince got rid of him is because he was finding him difficult and he wasn't playing ball. And Vince got fed up of him, and then thought, "Do you know what? I can save some money by getting rid of him, and it'll send a message to everybody else who's nibbling my ear. So, do you know what? Goodbye, you're released." But I don't think it had anything to do with value. I think he was trying to make a quick save a bit of money, scare the locker room, and get rid of an awkward superstar. That's what I think he was trying to do.
Yeah, I did read that apparently Bray Wyatt coming back was in place, or at least starting to be in place before Vince came back. That's something I read, that the feelers had been put out, but obviously it was finalized, in Triple H's time. So an interesting thing, and let's see how that unfolds. George is an interesting point. Braun definitely, and that's to our earlier question about people that should be worrying about their jobs. Braun definitely, but maybe not Bray as much due to the fan reaction to him being back. Now, whatever you say about Braun Strowman, he is a draw. He is a lovable monster as it stands in his current form. Kids dig Braun. I mean, that's a weird sentence, but I mean, look at what's his name, the tag team,
Nicholas.
Oh, Nicholas.
Braun has value as the old school style monster, the lovable kind of giant thing, and so I would not release Braun if I was in this situation. If I had that level of power, I wouldn't release Braun. If you were booking, so say in a fantasy world, and me and you, so me, Sam and Dan, we're at the helm of WWE. And we are, cutting costs, Is Braun Strowman on top of that list? For me, not for me. Braun and Bray are two of the safest people, to be honest.
Yeah,
Dan, go on, Dan,
Dan.
or Sam, whichever you prefer.
Go on, Dan.
I mean, I think there is other people on the roster which could probably be cut before Braun Strowman by a long way, that I don't think offer as much to the company in terms of value, in terms of on-screen personality, where I think they are going to be an asset in the future. Braun Strowman has got a lot of mainstream appeal, but if you flip it and look at someone, I mean, they brought him in to be this next superstar, and that's Gable Steveson. Someone like him has been around for a couple of years and doesn't really seem to have done much in the time that he's been there. People like Robert Roode, I do think that they could go back down to NXT and maybe build themselves up that way, but I don't think they'll ever be a big main event star that someone else might be. Someone like Gunther, they could realistically build him up to be a main event level star, but with Gunther, how many more years has he got left in the tank?
You're telling me you'd release Gunther?
No, I'm not saying I'd release Gunther, but I'm saying that he is one of the up and coming stars of the company that you don't want to release because he is that valuable of an asset.
Yeah,
I mean, you've got someone like Humberto Carrillo, as he's sometimes known. You've got whoever Mace used to be. I know it's not pronounced Mace anymore.
Marseille.
Yeah, that's the one. Mansoor. I don't think that.
Oh, they don't want to annoy Saudi Arabia. They don't want to annoy Saudi Arabia. Mansoor's the safest guy in the company.
Mansoor's the safest guy in the company.
But like I said, with people like that, you've obviously got a person there for a specific reason. But you look at people like John Cena, they are getting to the point where they are working absolutely minimalistic dates. Back to the earlier question, the Cena and the Orton match. The rumour is the Orton injury is still very bad, and it could be where he never returns to the ring anymore. That's how serious it could be, because I think, if I remember reading online, it's double fusion surgery on the lower back, which was Shawn Michaels' 4-year hiatus from the company. That's the level of injury we're talking. So with that, you do need people to build up. And if you start releasing a lot of the people that you could build up, like the Gunthers, like the Braun Breakers, you're not going to have the next 5 years worth of talent when these older sort of generation guys, the Cenas, the Ortons, maybe sort of people like Sheamus, when they do start winding down the fewer dates, you've got no one as the next wave coming through, which is what you do need. So I don't think they should start releasing people straight away or left, right, and centre. I do think that people like Bray Wyatt should be safe. Braun Strowman should be safe. But there was two people that I think we was all very surprised that they got released last time.
Yeah, interesting point there. There is something that George brings up here, and I do want to wind us down now, guys. I appreciate your time this evening. There's a question there about a statement there. George says, "I think we see a lot more pushback from the board, especially after the allegations." That was my initial point too, but then business is business is business is business. Does that come into it? Do you think is that a bullet in the gun of the board? Is it a viable bullet in the gun if Vince starts throwing his weight around? Can they be like, hang on, mate, we told you not to come back? Because I believe that's what's happened, or they advised that he didn't come back, from what I understand. So let's go to George's comment, and then we'll wind it up. Sort of like I say, I have got a poll going on, guys. So if you want to carry on voting on that poll, currently you do say that 60% of you say that Vince McMahon is going to get involved in creative. So that's interesting that you guys do think that there will be some involvement for Vince on creative. But let's wind it up and let's summarize on George's point. The allegations were obviously the reason Vince left in the first place, or stepped down, and obviously now he's coming back despite or in spite of these allegations. Lads, do they matter in this context? Of course they
Yes.
matter, and that's not me. I want to be very clear. Of course they matter in a worldwide context. But, you know, given that he is now walking back into the company, and I, you know, I'm flabbergasted, and the wrestling world is flabbergasted, despite these all allegations, that he is able to walk back into this company. So in this context, in a business context, when we're talking about him coming back in, you know, throwing his weight around, selling the company, do the allegations hold weight, and do they matter in this context? Let's start with Dan, and then move to Sam on this one.
So I do think that what you're saying is sort of perfectly accurate. I do think there will be a lot of pushbacks from the board in terms of anything going forward, which is why I think that he's brought back the 2 people that he ended up firing. He brings them back. He looks like he's giving them another job, another chance. So they're going to be more on his side to start with. So he's got an extra couple of % on the voting power that he wouldn't have had originally if he'd have gone back on his own. With other people leaving, there's going to be a bit of resentment maybe towards Vince because of that. So again, that could be even more pushback. And then another couple of people resigning because of the comeback of Vince, we're presuming. Again, I don't know if there's 12 people on the board. I don't know if there's 50 people on the board. But when you've technically alienated 2 people that have felt that alienated, they've left the company or left the board, and then brought 3 people back brought another 2 people back besides himself that are exiled in a way because of the previous regime, it's going to be where half of the board probably don't know where the loyalties lie. Do they stick with Triple H? Do they stick with Stephanie McMahon, Nick Khan? Or do they go back to the person that might have given them the job originally in terms of Vince McMahon?
Interesting, interesting points there. So again, there's a lot of things to discuss, and like I say, guys, we are going to wind it up. So if there's any comments based on what Dan or Sam say, coming up, do put them in there, and we'll try and get to them before we finish. Sam, I want to get your thoughts on there as well. You sort of answered me quite quickly before before we moved to Dan there. From a business perspective, again, socially, culturally, these things are very important that these things are addressed, and these allegations are seen in court, and that Vince is exposed for what has been done, or what has been proven that he's done. But in a business context, but like I say, he has walked back in. He is still in power. Are these allegations going to come back to haunt him, or do they not matter in this context?
They matter. They're still very, very, very relevant. And I promise you now, everybody at Titan Towers is sat around the table wondering what to do. I think in the next couple of days, we're going to see a story come out from the Observer or someone else saying there'll be an agreement put in place. And that agreement will be this, like, look, you are an 80% shareholder. We cannot ignore you. That means we have to listen to you. But here's the thing. You've got these allegations over your head. Therefore, we understand you're here to sell the company. That is all you're here to do. That is all you're here to do. You have to do it, but if you get involved in anything else, you are dragging us down. Like you need to think about your 80% share. You need to think about the sale of the company, which has been it's been on the cards for a long time. So I think there'll be an agreement in place, and they will be a leash on Vince. I think he'll push back against that. I think he'll get knocked back again, and who knows? Maybe more and more things will leak. But I actually think Vince, I'm not as worried about Vince as some people are because of those allegations, and because it makes sense for him to want to sell, especially with that amount of money on the line. I don't believe him that he's only there to do that, but I believe that the other powers in WWE will ensure he's only there to do that. I could be wrong, but I'm not worried about Vince swinging his great Khali around. I think things are going to be all right. We were always going to have to deal with this 80% share issue at some point. It was always going to, like, allegations or no allegations, but the allegations actually mean he has to be quite careful, because he has to, the fact that like the balls on this guy to go walking back in with that hanging over him, Who knows what's going to happen to him and how true some of this is. I'm not worried. Those allegations are going to hold him back. So is everybody else. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am.
Okay, interesting. Like I say, hopefully it will all be okay. As you say, obviously on behalf of our followers, on behalf of wrestling fans, I hope that Vince does not swing his Great Khali around, and we are, we're all in a good place as we enter the midpoint of the first month of 2023. What a few days it's been of this first this new year of 2023, guys. Wonderful to share this podcast with you, to be able to have this platform to talk about these things. Thank you so much to those people that have joined us, those people that will join, will come back to this video afterwards and watch it back. If you fancy liking the video, it will really help us out. If you fancy subscribing to the channel, it will really help us out. We are doing lots and lots of live streams, and we will continue to do lots and lots of live streams for as long as we can all possibly manage. So, and we will obviously continue to discuss valuable news like Money in the Bank being in the UK, which is very exciting, and Vince McMahon returning to WWE, which is less exciting and more nerve-wracking. But there we go. Anthony, on that note, saying well done, gents. Well, thank you, mate. Well done again to your work this week, and well done to like I say, well done to Dan this week for his help on New Japan and for his work in the back end, working my back end. On the visual side, and of course, well done to Sam as well for all the work he does. And obviously, he'll be joining me right here in an hour or so for SmackDown. So please do come and join, if not for me, but for Sam, who is celebrated now by Anthony as the face of the Give Me a Hull Yeah podcast, because he agrees with everything Sam agrees with everything Anthony says. And
didn't have Roman Reigns on his list. Sorry, didn't have Roman Reigns on his list. Forever hold that against him.
There you go. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. As soon as we have more on this story, we may get back together and discuss it. There are a couple of discussion live streams coming up. We've done quite a few as well, so please keep an eye on our playlists and videos on the channel. And yes, we'll be back shortly with SmackDown. Go and check out our wonderful work from this week. Dan covered Monday Night Raw and did a cracking job. We obviously had AEW Dynamite. We also had New Japan, a very successful New Japan stream earlier in this week as well. So please do support us if you discover us through this and want to go back. And once again, give us a like and a subscribe and all that bollocks. And we'll see you guys soon. Anything to add, boys, before we finish up?
See you all in an hour and a half at SmackDown. Support Give Me a Hull Yeah. Support WrestleSphere.
Absolutely. WrestleSphere coming soon. Very exciting. Yeah. Dan, your thoughts?
Not really. Yeah. Tune in for SmackDown. I'll be back on Monday Night Raw, even though I'm at work on the Tuesday all day. But come and keep me awake, guys.
Absolutely, love it. Right, guys, you know the drill. We're gonna send us off with let's go with Gangrel in a while. Let's send us off with Gangrel, guys. Oh. Right, I'm gonna count us down from 5. We're gonna do the whole year with the jazz hands. Everybody ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you all later. Hull yeah, Hull yeah.
It's Gangrel, the Vampire Warrior. Hello and welcome to Give Me a Hull Yeah podcast. I hope everyone in Yorkshire and beyond is having an awesome day. Keep fanging and banging.